Huh. Because I clicked on...
You allowed all the mic and video?
Yeah, I clicked on camera and mic. HD, let's see here. Huh. It shows my camera, but it's just a black screen.
You don't have it covered up with something, do you, by any chance?
No, I don't. I just checked just to make sure.
Because that's certainly something I would do.
Well, I have done.
Hey, there we go.
Okay. So something just clicked okay. I don't know why, but okay.
All right, fair enough.
All good then, huh?
Yeah, everything's peachy.
Okay.
This is actually a new system I've been trying out. I was doing Zoom, and I don't know. I didn't like the quality I was getting from Zoom. It didn't have a whole lot of options. There were a lot of limitations. And this just seems to sync up really well with what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Quality seems great for sure. I mean, the audio is very good.
Yeah, especially for a free program. I mean, it's working really nice for me.
StreamYard, huh?
Yep. So something I've started doing is while we're talking, I actually broadcast this to a website called Twitch, and it's mostly used for video game stuff.
Yeah.
But if I have any listeners that are live and watching, they can kind of type in questions, and if I deem them, like I want to ask you, I can go ahead and ask, and they can get their questions out of the way right away.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you coming on. I know the way we met was kind of weird.
That was a small world, right?
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and tell the story for whoever's going to be listening. Me and my neighbor were at a local lake, Lake Dowdy, and we were going to go ice fishing. So we drag all our stuff out on the lake, and we go to start drilling holes, and his auger just will not start. And a little bit of backdrop, every time I've went out fishing with him, something has broken. So we lost a fishing rod the first time out, his auger, his ice hut got destroyed on Lake Dowdy the next weekend. The wind just picked it up and carried it all the way across the lake. It was nuts.
Yeah, I've had that happen.
And but anyway, so we're out there fighting with this auger, fighting. And we look around like, okay, someone's got to be coming down here soon. So I look up on the parking lot. Lo and behold, there's somebody with this crazy dog running around, just doing laps around the parking lot. And I walk up, and Al's there, and he's nice enough to come out and drill some holes for us. And while he's drilling holes, he looks down and he sees my KastKing tackle box. He goes, "Oh, that's some of my stuff." And I guess the rest is history. I mean,
that's right.
Bold enough to ask if you'd want to do something silly like this, and sure enough, you agreed.
You'd be surprised, and it's happening more and more now all the time, but you'd be surprised at how many places I go, and I just end up running into somebody, and I happen to look in their boat or look in their ice sled or what they're wearing or something, and inevitably there's something there from KastKing.
It's a big company. I mean,
it's really growing fast.
And I think there are a couple things that feed into that. We're going to talk about them in depth later.
Yeah.
But I think one of those things is quality, and the other one's price point.
Right.
And it seems like KastKing has struck a really good balance between those two things. Just looking on the website and looking at the offerings and what you get for your money, to me, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. It's in our name, actually. When we first started, and I didn't start the company, a couple other gentlemen did. I joined about almost 3 years ago or so now. But the original kind of tagline, if you will, for KastKing was keeps fishing fun, right? Mm-hmm. And it was really kind of opening price point, beginner type stuff, really low prices. And we wanted really to make people enjoy fishing because they weren't spending a lot of money. But as we grew, we changed the tagline to affordable innovation. And that really says so much about what we do, because it's truly affordable, but it's not things that other people make and we just copy and bring it to market. We truly are the designers, the creators of everything at KastKing. And so our knowledge of the industry, I think I've been, between my retail background and my manufacturing for retail background, over 40 years of working in the outdoor industry and in retail and such. Some of the other product development people that work with me, they have a long lifespan in the fishing industry and such as well. So, I mean, we really bring a lot of experience and knowledge to the table, and we use that to create new products, but really to solve problems that the fishermen face all the time. And we always keep in mind that we want to make it affordable. So that's really where the tagline comes in. And it's why we go to work every day, is to build truly affordable, great new product.
Well, I know I've got a co-host. He's not on here tonight, obviously, but he loves the KastKing line. That's all of his fishing tackle, his rods and reels. He's replaced everything with KastKing. So
that's awesome.
I'm working on getting my stuff upgraded. To be honest, I've got a 13 fishing reel that I really like.
Yeah.
And then I've got an Abu, but I'm always looking for new fishing stuff.
We all are. There's lots of good companies out there that make really, really good product. What really separates us from them is our business model. We have the ability to bring our products direct to the consumer rather than through a two-step type distribution, which simply for the consumer raises prices.
Right.
When you sell it to a distributor, and then the distributor sells it to a retailer, and then the retailer sells it to the end consumer, there has to be additional dollars in there that just make prices go up. And, in today's world, e-commerce has become the preferred method for shopping for most people. Now, there's still a level of experience that people want to go walk through a store and hopefully find what they need. Hopefully it's in stock and hopefully the prices are reasonable. But, in a time-poor environment, the consumer just wants to pick up their phone or get on their computer and shop every brand and compare every price and have it at their doorstep in 2 days with no shipping cost. And to them, it's extremely convenient. Now, think about this for a minute. Here's a really important example. My oldest son lives in Soldotna, Alaska.
Okay.
And it's an incredible place, but it's pretty remote. It's 3.5 hour drive from Anchorage in decent weather. And there's very little competition. There's a couple of big box stores there and some independent sporting goods stores and things. But let's say he was going to go buy a car seat for his daughter. He'd go to one store and they might have 2 or 3 car seats to pick from. And because of the freight costs that it takes to get it to Alaska to begin with, and because of that two-step distribution system, it's going to cost him a lot to go to the store and buy that item. But he can go on to Amazon and he can shop virtually any car seat available any place in the country. And he can compare all the prices and features and all that and just click one button. And in a couple of days, it's at his house at a price that's competitive with everybody else in the marketplace. So for people who live in isolated or competition poor areas, Amazon has given them the ability to buy at the same price point that competitive markets have, and given them a selection that most of the time they just don't have in their store.
And that business model, that started with the originators of the company, didn't it?
Sure.
Just reading on the website, I mean, there's a really
Yeah.
good history section, but
Yeah.
they started off as business majors at Syracuse. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the founding partner of this company, his name is Tate Swee, and when he was getting his master's degree at Syracuse, was looking for a business, and because where he had grown up, there was a lot of fishing tackle manufacturing done in that area. He was kind of familiar with that. So after he graduated and had his MBA from Syracuse, he ended up working for another company in the country, working on an e-commerce business model. And during that time, was looking to begin his own business. And he decided he was going to start a fishing company. And they literally started in a garage in New York. And the first items that they were selling was fishing line. Okay.
Okay.
It was easy to manufacture, easy to sell. It was a high volume category. And that's what started KastKing, is selling braided and monofilament fishing line. That was about 8 years ago is all. Not very long.
Mm.
And since that time, the business model proved to be spot on for the consumer. And then it was just a matter of adding more products and building a team that could develop really high quality products and utilize the e-commerce model to deliver that to the consumer at prices that nobody else can compete with.
Yeah, and being a young company like that, Amazon has seen kind of the same explosion of growth. So, as the time went on, has KastKing stuck with that e-commerce model, or are you guys putting products in physical locations?
The e-commerce business model is still our core direction. Okay. But with the growth of the brand, more and more consumers have come to us and said, why can't I buy your product at XYZ store?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only were they saying that to us, but more importantly, they were saying that to some of the big retailers in the country. And I'll give you two examples. It was 1 year ago this month that we actually started offering KastKing products through Tackle Warehouse. Now,
Okay.
Tackle Warehouse has basically one location, in California, but they're really known as an e-commerce site as well. So it made a lot of sense for us to work with them on the e-commerce side and just support their e-commerce efforts. Okay. Well, during that same time, we had also been approached by Academy Sports and Outdoor stores down in Texas.
Okay.
Basically, their customers had been calling the buyers or calling management and saying, hey, we're buying KastKing all the time. We'd sure like it if you'd put it in your stores, because we also love Academy stores. They like going in there for the experience. They're beautiful stores. I mean, my gosh, I wish I had an Academy here where I live in Colorado. It's really a great store, and I say that with a bit of experience, because I spent over 20 years, almost 22 years in retail, similar to that. And I was always intrigued by what Academy was doing, and thought that they were a very fine retailer. Like their locations, I like their assortments, I like their commitment to the customer as far as in-stock conditions and customer service. I thought it was a very good store. So when they approached us and said, hey, we'd like to pursue finding some items from KastKing that we think would make sense in our stores. To me, it was the perfect store to begin a partnership with.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like I said, I love the store, right? It's the kind of store I want to be associated with, because I know they take care of their customers and they do a great job. Secondly, they're located in some of our biggest volume markets, driven through bass fishing and inshore saltwater fishing. That whole market from Texas to the Gulf, through the Gulf Coast, Florida, up the eastern seaboard, where their strength is is also kind of our core strength, at least in the beginning. And now we're expanding out into a lot of other things, but they're in a great location. So we did come to an agreement, and we have an assortment of products that are in Academy stores this month.
Hey, so that's a brand new thing then.
Brand new.
Hey,
So
all right.
for the first time, you can now go to Academy. You can find KastKing rod and reel combos, spinning and casting. You can find our highest end tournament quality bass fishing casting reel. It's called the Bassinator Elite. Same reel that people like Brett Chapman and Cliff Crochet and Major League Fishing pros are using. That's available at Academy, plus a number of other reels at different price points. They have some of our fishing line, including our new Covert fluorocarbon fishing line. So we're very excited about the partnership we've built with Academy, and we think that it'll just continue to grow. But having said that, our core strategy will remain to be e-commerce. So the assortment typically that you would find in a store like Academy may be slightly different than what you'll see on our website.
Right.
Okay.
Do you have anybody that will take me, for example? I have a really hard time just buying a fishing reel from a website.
Sure.
Without physically picking it up, looking at it, making sure the size is there. Do you find people are turned off a little bit by that?
That's an excellent question, and one that we work on a lot. Up until last year, with this whole COVID, pandemic that we're facing as a country, one of our major initiatives has always been to attend a lot of consumer shows. I would basically spend from the first weekend of January to the last weekend of April, literally on the road every week, traveling to some part of the country, setting up, presenting, and then taking down again at a consumer fishing show. Might be the ISE show in Denver. It might be the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show in Portland. It might be the Puyallup Show. It might be the Bassmaster Classic. It might be the Catfish Conference. Who knows? I mean, everywhere across the country, there was somebody from KastKing, even at Florida, the saltwater shows. We're there putting our product in the hands of the consumer who maybe has looked at our products online, but was hesitant to actually pull the trigger and make the purchase. I'm a little bit like you too. I kind of like to touch and feel. Now, I will say that the consumer today is much more likely to buy direct via a company's website or Amazon than they were 3, 4, 5 years ago. They're just much more confident in that. So a little bit of that is taken away, but the consumer shows were critical to us. Whether we sold a single piece or not, that wasn't the goal. The goal was to build the confidence in the consumer. So when they placed that order for a reel or a rod or whatever, they already knew what they were going to get. Okay.
Right.
The second part of that is this: as we've grown so quickly, the consumer maybe tried one item and had a great experience. Well, the next time they're looking for a fishing item, maybe it's not another reel, maybe it's a rod this time, or a tool or fishing line or whatever it happens to be. They already know they've had a great experience with KastKing. So once they buy it once, we make sure that they are 100% satisfied. I mean, first of all, we build products so that they can always be satisfied. But if something should go wrong, I mean, stuff happens, right?
Right.
Our customer service is legendary. Legendary. I mean, that is something that I hope that I've brought to the company because of my experience at retail. We have to take care of our customers. They are always right.
Yeah,
And
I've got a retail background also, and our retail, I was in a building supply store, but we were kind of like this small fish in a big pond, just a little local store. And everything you're saying holds true across the whole spectrum, because the only way we made it was being superior in knowledge and superior in satisfaction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You just don't get a chance to disappoint the customer twice. So if there's a problem, they got to know we're going to fix it. But for the most part, We just don't have problems because our product is really that good.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at your website, the product range, maybe compared to other fishing manufacturers, I want to say is maybe a little bit smaller, but I didn't realize you had that many products. Like I didn't realize you did fly fishing stuff.
Yeah.
The day I met you, I had no idea that you guys made ice fishing rods.
Right.
And you were actually making a promo video
for
that rod. Which one was that? It was I know it was interchangeable. It had two different rods.
It's called the Convert. It's a twin tip ice rod. So in a little travel tube that's 17 inches long, it comes with a handle section and two different tips, a medium and a medium light tip. So you actually have two rods in one in a travel case. There's actually two models. There's the hard water ice, which is a IM6 graphite rod. And there's the linear ice, which is 100% glass rod. Really designed for a lighter finesse presentations, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And so you went out and tested that. Obviously, that went great. Looking at some of your other products, we'll get into maybe like the Baitcasters.
Sure.
There's a pretty wide range of Baitcasters.
You bet.
What kind of separates them? Are there different categories? Bass, big game fish, and the finesse fishing, which I want to talk about a little bit too.
Okay, great. It's a great question. So let's just talk about low profile baitcasters. I brought one. I'd have to have a stack a mile high if I was going to show you everything, and we wouldn't have the time to do that tonight. But first of all, I'll just show you something that a lot of people that sell on e-commerce don't do. So, I mean, this is the packaging for one of our reels. Okay. And when you open that up, there's really detailed information about it. But then inside, you'll see the presentation of the reel itself. Packaging, again, from a retail background, right?
Mm-hmm.
You only have a few seconds at retail to grab the customer's attention.
Right.
Okay. Or they walk by it, don't recognize it, buy somebody else or whatever. For us, most people working in e-commerce don't think so much about packaging. To us, packaging is critical because it's the consumer experience. When I receive this in the mail after I've ordered it from KastKing.com or from Amazon, it's my first experience sometimes with that customer. And I want them to open up and go, wow, that box is pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
And it starts the whole consumer experience right from here. So we spend a lot of time and effort on our packaging material to begin with. So here's a typical low profile bait casting reel, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Try to get this centered for you. What's different about this is this happens to be the fastest gear ratio reel in the entire industry.
I'm glad you brought that one because I was going to ask about it.
Yeah. This is the Speed Demon Elite. Okay. It's brand new as of early this last year. It's a 10.5 to 1 gear ratio. That is blazing fast. Nobody makes one faster. There's some techniques that require, if you want to burn a lipless crankbait, or if you want to pick up line very, very quick in a flipping type situation where you're going to get some slack line or fishing heavy cover and you got to get them out quick. I mean, that's the reel. We'll pick up more line with every turn of the handle than anything out there. Okay. The difference really in low profile bait casters is a number of things. One is gear ratio. Mm-hmm. One is how many ball bearings are used within the reel. That really relates to performance and smoothness, quietness, mm-hmm. kind of bearings that you use. The drag system. There's all kinds of different drag materials. Most of the higher end reels now will use a carbon fiber disc drag, 1, 2, 3, or even more carbon fiber discs. It gives you a very smooth startup on the drag, but it also gives you more power in the drag.
Okay.
And then profile, and what you can't see because I don't have another one next to it here, but This is what I would consider a palm size reel. I mean, it virtually disappears in my hand. And most people now, most professional bass fishermen or enthusiasts, are looking for a small profile reel that fits easily in their hand as they're using it. Okay. Other things would include what type of handle materials. And this happens to be an aluminum handle instead of a carbon fiber handle, or EVA versus cork versus rubber. There's all kinds of different things. But for the most part, what you're talking about is bearings, size, drag power, and gear ratio. And those
how
are
about the braking system?
okay. Braking is kind of totally separate. This actually has two different brakes in it.
Okay.
Okay. This actually has both a magnetic brake and a centrifugal brake. So if I open this up, there's the centrifugal brake system, and each one of these little buttons here has an on-off switch. So I can either set them all on or all off. Okay. But then if I turn this over, here is the magnetic braking system.
Okay.
Okay. On the side cover. That is adjusted right here from the outside. So the first thing I do is I set my centrifugal brake to wherever I want it on the inside, close the side cover, and then I can fine tune and adjust the magnetic brake without having to open that side cover when I'm out on the water.
Okay, so your centrifugal brake takes care of the heavy duty stuff.
So the centrifugal brake only really applies pressure at high speeds.
Okay.
It's force or spinning action for those brakes to expand out and cause the braking effect. So on that initial hard cast and launch, you're getting centrifugal braking, okay, to prevent overruns initially.
Right.
And then as it slows down, the magnetic brake will then pick up and slow it down as the bait hits the water. You get towards the end of your cast. So this particular reel has a dual braking system. Now, is that better than a single? Yes and no. There are really good magnetic braking systems and really good centrifugal braking systems out there. For example, our highest end reel, the Bassinator Elite, has only a centrifugal brake system. It does not have a magnetic at all, but it functions incredibly. I mean, it's a really high-end reel. One thing about that reel, I say high-end for us, it's not high-end in the industry. For us, it's our most expensive reel at around $170, okay? But that reel, if you compare it to what else is out there in the industry at the same quality level, it's a $300 or $350 reel. And that really becomes our e-commerce model, affordable innovation tagline, is that it's an affordable high-end performance reel. And again, it's the same reel that Cliff Crochet, Dylan Nussbaum, Brett Chapman, a dozen other FLW pros and Elite Series guys are using. But it just happens to cost a lot less.
Okay, I assume those guys give you live feedback on your equipment.
Absolutely.
How long does it take to process the real-time information that they're giving you and update those innovations into your reels?
It's a great question too. So what's unique about our company is because we're small enough to be fast, and we're big enough to be powerful within the industry and do a lot. We have 3 engineers that's all they do is design work on reels. That's it. That's their only job, is to design the newest thing. And in fact, I wish I could tell you or show you right now, but we'll be launching a new reel in spring of maybe summer of 2021 that will probably change the way braking systems ever work. Okay.
Hey.
So that'll be coming. But that's because we have our engineers. We don't buy reels from somebody else that anybody else can go buy. I mean, it costs a lot of money to tool up and design a reel from scratch like this. And these are all of our own people. But for example, Brett Chapman, Brett and I, we worked together for quite a few years, actually. When I was at the last company I was with, I designed rods for him. And so when he came over, when I joined KastKing, he actually left the other company and joined KastKing as our first Major League Fishing pro.
Hey.
And we started working on the new Speed Demon Pro rods at that time. So we designed basically 19 different models within that series. And we'd build the rods. I'd go out on his boat. We'd fish those rods. We'd tweak actions. We'd tweak lengths a little bit. We'd add guides. We'd remove guides. We'd change whatever it happened to be. We would change that. And, I rely a lot on them. I've been fortunate enough to be able to work over the years with some extremely knowledgeable professional anglers, and I've learned so much from them. People like Skeet Reese, Rick Clun, you name it. People like this that have way more knowledge than I do about bass fishing. They've given me their knowledge about what they need to do their job right. And then I use my understanding of building rods to build the equipment for them. So, and that's basically the same way I work with Brent or with Dylan Nussbaum, our NWT National Walleye Pro. Mm-hmm. Dylan was the youngest guy to ever win a NWT event. He was only 20 years old when he won the championship. Man. And Dylan has worked with me to develop the Wide Eye Walleye series of rods. In fact, we just launched a new rod that's kind of his signature rod. It's a 6/8 casting model designed specifically for some of the techniques that he relies on to win tournaments. So, yeah, the pros give us a lot of information, and then we use our strength and knowledge of manufacturing processes to make it come true.
From what I've seen, it seems like KastKing's big strength is bass fishing. But earlier I mentioned the finesse baitcasters that some of the panfish guys are using. Is that a relatively new development in pan fishing?
It's pretty new overall when it comes to a baitcaster. Baitcasters are typically, well, a lot of people still have trouble casting a baitcaster and not getting a big bird's nest, right? Okay. I do it all the time. God, I can't cast one of those things. Well, you really can't. The key to it is when you first put line on this, attach it to your rod, run line through the guides. The first thing you got to do is attach the bait with the exact weight that you're going to be throwing. That's the first thing you have to do.
Okay.
Then what you're going to do is you're going to use this tensioning knob right here. Mm-hmm. Okay. And before you even think about the braking part of it, you're going to adjust that tensioning knob so that you have the right amount of tension on the spool for the bait that you're throwing. That's the first.
Okay, what indicates the right amount of tension? What do you want your lure to do?
The speed of fall. Okay. So if I push down on the thumb bar and I let that bait fall down to the ground, holding my rod tip up in the air, I don't want it to just fall like a rock. I want it to slowly come down. Now this is general, all right? Because I can tell you that professional anglers, they'll back off tensioning to almost nothing. They'll back off braking to almost nothing. They want
no tension. Just
they want nothing. They want to make the longest or shortest or fastest cast that they can make, the most accurate with no tensioning on it. So if you watch Brett Chapman do it, I mean, if I was to pick up one of Brett Chapman's rods and throw it the way I do, I'd have a mess on my hand. Okay? But that's how good they are.
Right.
And for the average guy, you want to set the tensioning so that your bait falls about that speed from the tip of the rod.
Okay.
As a starting point. Okay. Then I would say set your braking, whichever method it is, centrifugal or magnetic, set it to about 80% of max.
Okay.
Okay. And start with that and make some casts. And I think you're going to find immediately you're going to eliminate most of the backlashes just by doing that. Okay.
All right.
Once you get more confidence and you want to make a little bit longer casts, then you can either back off on tensioning, back off on braking. You're in more control with your thumb on the spool, and you start gaining that ability through that way. But if you start with good tensioning, at least 80% of the breaking, at least you're not going to ruin a whole spool of line and take 20 minutes to pick it out.
And that's where the finesse stuff is new to baitcasters, because there's not the weight.
So the turn, yeah. So what I was saying is that if I take this basic, high-speed bait casting reel, it's going to be difficult for most guys to throw really, really light baits. It's much easier to make a bait casting reel function with heavier baits, bigger, heavier baits. You just don't have to throw it as hard. You let the centrifugal motion of the cast take line off of the reel and control it with your thumb or the braking, and you have less problems. But if you get into a headwind condition with a really light balsa bait or something even smaller than that, it's really difficult to throw it very far, very accurate, or without getting a backlash. Sure. So the term, and it actually kind of started, as I understand it anyway, it actually kind of started in Japan, in the Asian market. It's called bait finesse, or a BFS reel, bait finesse. The reel looks very similar. It's a small frame reel, but if you look at the spool, it's very shallow.
Okay.
It has almost no line capacity. For average fishing, you probably wouldn't like to use it because it doesn't have very much line capacity, especially if you're using monofilament. But even with some of the thinner braids now, it has very little line capacity. But that super light, super thin, low capacity spool is what allows you to use extremely light lines, say 4 or 6 pound test line or the equivalent in braid, and make those light bait presentations, finesse type presentations. It's also a reel that some manufacturers are calling it a skipping reel. So it allows you to skip baits under the dock without the bait or without the reel backlashing. So it kind of functions in both ways.
And I noticed it's out of stock on the website. Has it been a pretty popular reel?
They blew out as soon as we introduced them. We were shocked. We thought it was kind of a question mark category, but to be honest, it sold out almost immediately.
That's so odd. Because to me, just being an average fisherman, I'm perfectly content using my spinning gear or even a spin cast combo for pan fishing or ultralight fishing.
Right.
What advantages does that baitcaster give versus using a spinning setup?
I would say that most skilled anglers with a bait casting reel in their hand feel like they have a lot more control. Accuracy. If you think about a spinning rod, when you cast that overhand or kind of a sidearm cast and you're releasing the line with this finger, and that line is coming off like this, off the spool, and you have to kind of wait and judge where it's going to land and then flip the bail or stop the line or something to get it to land exactly where you want. If you watch these guys, really good fishermen with a bait casting reel, I mean, they're not aiming for a spot this big. They're aiming for a spot this big, and they can hit it virtually every time. And it's the reel that's able to do that. So it becomes a target presentation, very accurate, very controlled.
And obviously, breaking into the BFS systems, does KastKing have any plans on breaking into something, say, like, do you mess with the catfishing industry with large, like, surf style rods? And
well, funny you asked that. Today, we launched a new series of rods.
Hey, all right.
And for everybody's watching out here, we didn't set this up. This is honestly a question that
this is my genius working in real time.
But this is a new series of rods. It's kind of a short series right now. There's only 5 in the series. The name of the rod series is KastKing Kong. Okay,
I like it.
Okay, and in fact, I'll try to show you the name. There it is, right there. Okay. King Kong rods. These rods, there's one spinning rod and 4 casting rods in the market or in the series. Okay. They go from 7 feet, actually, 6.5 feet in a one-piece 50 to 100 pound rated rod.
Okay.
That rod also has a full gimbal.
Yeah.
To go on a fighting belt. It's a rod that you would use for, saltwater species, maybe sturgeon on the Columbia River, certainly halibut, big offshore type fish, tuna, whatever. 6.5 foot, one piece casting, rated 50 to 100. Then we have one spinning rod right now, only one spinning. It's a 7.5 foot, rated 15 to 40 pounds. It's a rod that you can use for inshore saltwater, nearshore saltwater. Catfish guys are going to love that. The guys fishing stripers up in the northeast United States are going to love that rod. There's just a lot going on with that one spinning model, and we'll have more. I know this rod series is going to be extremely popular. One thing that they all have is this strike tip.
Okay.
A lot of that fishing is done in either low light or night type fishing. And the chartreuse green strike tip just shines incredibly out there. So, and it's surprisingly, have you ever been sturgeon fishing?
No.
Okay. So I lived out in Oregon for 25 years. One of my favorite things to do was sturgeon fishing. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we'd go, an hour, half hour out of Portland, and we'd catch sturgeon that might be 10, 11 feet long and weigh 500 plus pounds in the Columbia River.
Oh.
But surprisingly enough, those fish are light biters. Really? That rod could be in the rod holder in your boat, and that tip would just go like this. And you'd have to be ready because pretty soon it would just bend right down to the water.
Oh, man.
And so having a tip that is soft enough to not spook the fish off.
Right.
And yet you could detect those light strikes with this strike tip is really important. So all 5 models of the new Kong rods have that strike tip. It's also great for catfishing, especially at night, and a lot of other types of fishing too. But that's a brand new series. They also feature this Foregrip. So I built in this. It's an EVA foam core. With a hard rubber cross wrap over the top that's shrunk over the top. And then I make these finger grooves so that when you're under the load pressure of a big fish, you have something to really hold on to. So very comfortable. The rear handle is just rubber cross wrap, more high density. So it's in a rod holder really, really good, and comes out of a rod holder easily as well.
Okay.
The Kong series. And like I said, that was just launched today on both KastKing.com and on Amazon.
Anything longer than 7 feet, like say like a 10-foot surf rod?
We go up to 8 feet.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, it only goes to 8, but we've already had questions about 9, 10, 11, and 12-foot rods in the spinning models for surf.
Do you do a lot of saltwater gear? Do you get a lot of requests for that kind of stuff?
We do. We have another series we launched last year called the Estuary Inshore series of rods. Mm-hmm. They're perfect for, that Florida East and West Coast inshore, nearshore market. The Gulf states, saltwater, I'm talking redfish, snook, speckled trout, permit, all these kind of species in that nearshore, inshore market. It's called Estuary Inshore, and we do very well with those as well.
The only reason I ask, I've been watching a lot of ocean fishing videos as of late. The snow and the cold here in Colorado. I like to see some warmer weather, and I watch those guys catching those monster fish, and I get jacked up. I want to go ocean fishing, but we're kind of landlocked here in Colorado.
Yeah, right.
That being said, there's a lot of good fishing opportunities here. Do you live close to where you were fishing whenever we were met?
Very close. I live in Loveland.
That's where I live.
Really?
Yeah.
Small world.
Heck, we're basically neighbors.
That's right. Yeah. I lived down in the Westminster area before I moved up here just last year. and love it.
Geez, we were looking for a house at the same time. We moved up here last year too.
Is that right?
We moved, let's see, last year we moved from Southern Ohio to Longmont.
Yeah.
And we stayed in Longmont for a little bit and just wasn't what we wanted. So started browsing around, and lo and behold, this first house we saw, we're like, hey, we want this one.
Yeah.
Bambo.
No, we love it up here. It's so much smaller and quieter than Denver, and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, for someone like you that loves the outdoors and obviously is deeply rooted in outdoor activities,
Right.
this is the perfect place for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like, it's a little bit like where I grew up. Still a lot more people. I grew up in a small town in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
Lived there, went to college there before I moved to Oregon. So I had always wanted to come back to the Mountain States, and had an opportunity about 19 years ago to move back to the Mountain States, Denver, which a little bigger than I wanted it to be, but I really wanted to come back to the mountains, and it's awesome. It doesn't rain like Oregon.
Are you a fly fisherman? Obviously, growing up in Montana, you would have had to have learned.
I grew up fly fishing. Literally, there's a little fly shop in Livingston, Montana, called Dan Bailey's Fly Shop. Very famous place.
Uh-huh.
And in 1964, I'm going to date myself a little bit now. In 1964, I was 8 years old, and I was tying flies for Dan Bailey himself for his fly shop in Livingston, Montana.
Wow, so you really do have a rich, deep history in outdoor activities.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up fishing and hunting. I call him my uncle. He's actually my cousin, I guess, but he's 86 now. Just bought a new walleye boat and golfs down in Arizona in the wintertime. He was my hunting and fishing mentor, and basically he had me tying flies when I was about 6. They had me reloading bullets for our hunting trips from probably, I guess, 7 or 8. And I've never come back inside from being an outdoorsman since.
Obviously, being a fly fisherman, I was looking at the selection of the fly rods on KastKing's website. You want to talk about those just a little bit, kind of what they are?
Of all the fishing I do, fly fishing has always been my first love because that's what I grew up doing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first things I wanted to do at KastKing was to build a incredible series of fly rods, because in my opinion, not enough people get into fly fishing because of the expense. If you go into a fly shop these days, it's not uncommon to see fly rods for $600, $800, $1,000. I mean, crazy numbers. But we started with some kind of opening price point combos to get more people involved in fly fishing. So we have the Emergence Combo, which includes a 4-piece fly rod, a reel that already has line, leader, and backing preloaded on it. It has 12 flies that I've basically handpicked that I know I can go catch fish on virtually any time of the year someplace. They're great flies. These aren't just cheap flies that we throw in for piece count. I mean, these are really good flies, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Parachute Adams, hare's ears, woolly buggers, flies that we use all the time here.
Right.
There's also an assortment of tools that you need, nippers and, all the things that a fly guy needs. Plus a travel case. It all packs down and fits into the case. So that whole set is around $120 in that range someplace.
Mm-hmm.
Great way to get started on fly fishing. I've actually designed a complete high-end line of fly rods, from a 7.5 foot 3-weight all the way up to switch rods, 10 foot 5-weight, 11 foot 6-weight. I mean, they're all done. Yeah. But what we have found is that in the fly market, at the higher end performance line, that consumer still kind of wants to go in and cast those rods and such. And we're a little concerned that it's too early to approach that yet on e-commerce. So for right now, our fly assortment is fairly limited, even though I would love to have it
blown out. What else is coming down the pike as far as KastKing is concerned? One question I have.
Yeah.
Does KastKing have any intentions in breaking into the lure market?
At some point.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
So what else is? We've mentioned the unmentionable reel that is going to revolutionize the braking system. We've got the Calm. Is there anything else that's new and exciting that's coming out?
Yeah.
Obviously the Demon. I mean that's exciting.
Is special. I did bring this because I want to just bring it to your attention. It's kind of blown out there, but this is the covert fluorocarbon. Okay. It's 100% fluorocarbon. It's made in Germany. It is phenomenal. This is the same fluorocarbon that our pros are using, and they're absolutely swearing by it. Mm-hmm. And you know the price on fluorocarbon line out there. It's really expensive. Okay. This is another reason that Academy came to us, is because they wanted our fishing line. And you'll find covert fluorocarbon at Academy stores as well. So we have this in both 50-yard leader spools and 200-yard filler spools. Mm-hmm. From 6 to 30-pound test. And the covert fluorocarbon is an exceptional product line. I can't share it with you yet. If we do this again in 40 days, I believe that I'm going to change the finesse braid market for spinning reels this spring at KastKing. We have a new product line coming that is, if you throw braided line on a spinning reel, you're going to want this.
Okay, so in 40 days, I need that because I've got a rod out there that's begging to be re-spooled.
You won't be able to fish with other braid after you fish this. It's that good. I've been working on this for 2 years. It's not an easy project. And the pros that have used it already, they just said, you better get it quick because I can't go back to anything I've ever used after I've tried it.
It's amazing how much room there is in the fishing line market for innovation and improvement. Yeah. Do you feel like that's something that anglers take for granted, the fishing line they use?
Oh, they take it for granted. They use the wrong stuff and they don't change it often enough.
How often are you supposed to change it?
Depends on use and depends on what you're doing. So,
say a recreational angler gets out once a weekend.
Yeah. So I wouldn't fish a monofilament line an entire year. Okay. Just because it definitely changes over time. I mean, if you're fishing that often once a week, you can easily afford a $6 box of 300-yard spool of line twice a year. Just change it out. Okay. If it's a braided line, even on braid, you can reverse it. You're only fishing the last 50 yards for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So reverse it if you want. But here's a great idea for people to do. Take your reel, whether it's a spinning or casting, fill it up halfway with a cheap monofilament as a backing. And then take your really good line, the expensive line, okay, and only put on 100 yards of it at the end. And then you'll be able to fill a reel up 3 times with a spool of line instead of putting all 300 yards on that reel and then feeling you got to switch it out.
I feel like a fool. I've never, ever thought about doing that.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. And that backing is just a space holding thing anyway. And here's the key to that. Braided line is so thin now. It takes a lot of, if you're using 10-pound braid, that's like using 4-pound mono, okay, or 2-pound mono. It might take you 3 times as much to fill up that reel with that expensive thin braid as it does the cheap mono. So put on 10-pound mono, half of the reel, and then just put on your good braid in the last 100 yards.
I think that scares a lot of people, just making those line-the-line connections. And
yeah, but I tell you, it's a pretty easy connection at that point, because first of all, you're almost never getting to it anyway.
Right.
I mean, you got to be a pretty special day. You catch a fish big enough to get you to that point, unless you're breaking off a lot of line, right?
Right.
So it's not going to really matter, but it's an easy connection to make. Okay. Now, if it's fluorocarbon will actually break down over time in UVA. So we want to switch that out. But at fluorocarbon, there's only very few times that I'm filling a reel with fluorocarbon. Okay. I'm typically using fluorocarbon as a leader, either at the end of the braid or at the end of even a mono or some kind of a super line. Okay. There's some situations where we throw heavy fluorocarbon on a casting reel for crankbait applications. The whole reel's filled up with it. But most of the guys who are doing that are not paying for their line. They're just using it anyway.
Yeah, I've never had really good luck with fluoro. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I just mismatched it to my reel, but it was not a good casting line that I had.
Well, fluorocarbons can definitely feel stiffer than regular monofilament. They have some characteristics that make them really, really important in a lot of situations, but they can cast different. Okay, that's why I personally like them as a leader material and not necessarily a mainline option.
Mm-hmm. Last thing I want to talk about, obviously, we're going to be heading into springtime here soon, so panfish and crappie are going to be firing up, which is what I'm super excited about.
Yeah.
What kind of setup from KastKing, let's say spinning, since we've already talked about the BFS setups, a good spinning setup for someone who's wanting to catch crappie?
Sure. So we have a series of rods called Resolute and Crixus. The Crixus is an IM6 graphite rod. The Resolute is an IM7 graphite rod. We make those from 4.5 feet, 2-piece ultralight, all the way up to 8-foot heavy flipping rod. Okay. So there's a lot of options. Very low price point, all 2-piece rods. There's great options in there on the light and the ultralight side for crappie and panfish. And I would simply match that up with one of our moderately priced, say something under $50 spinning reels in a size 10, or we even I think we make one smaller than that. One that I was using for ice fishing, actually, the Centron.
Yeah.
But a size 10 light reel, along with that Crixus or that Resolute, it's a perfect option for crappie panfish.
And then does KastKing have a lightweight line that would go along with all that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Well, you got me sold. Yeah. I'm so excited to go out and try to catch some crappie around here. That's one thing I've really been missing. Yeah, Southern Ohio, I had them dialed in. We could go out and catch crappie any weekend, didn't matter. Here, I'm really struggling.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely places here to do it. It's probably not. It's not going to be like the fishing you have out there, in my opinion. But there's still some really good places to go.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna burn some rubber this spring. I'm gonna find somewhere. Okay, website. What's the best place to go to order KastKing?
Sure, KastKing.com, and that's KastKing. So KastKing.com. You can find everything on Amazon as well. Just go into Amazon and search KastKing. You'll see everything that comes up. But KastKing.com is just as easy and fast and still free shipping. So you find everything you need right there. Something I do want to mention, if I have just a minute more.
Yeah, you got all the time in the world. Go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things that we recognized last year, actually a little bit longer than that, and we started to launch last year, was that, the fishing consumer is an outdoor consumer. They hunt, they camp, they hike, they do everything outdoors, right? Maybe sometimes they do it all together. They go backpack camping, okay? And they take a fishing rod along. So we've got travel rods. But we're driving fast into the outdoor camping world with a new brand that we introduced last year called Extremis.
Okay.
We have lots of products out there already. We're already one of the top sellers of something as simple as paracord. We sell a ton of paracord, all kinds of different colors, lengths. We have a ton of that. We have water bottles, great prices on really good water bottles of all sizes and shapes. This doesn't happen to be an Extremis item, but it is part of our outdoor apparel item. These are some of our gloves. You probably saw me wearing these when I was ice fishing.
I did.
Because this glove, it's great for the hunter, and you'll see why in a second. It's great for the fisherman, but why it's warm, it's got good grip on it. You can hold on to things very easily. I can just that fast peel it back, and now I have dexterity with my fingers for shooting, tying knots, or whatever in a fully function warm glove as well. So
hey, those are all right.
Yeah, these are awesome. We have mittens. We have a liner for the mittens. We've got a lot of different things. So you're going to find us into a lot of these other things. But watch for us in the Extremis brand as we continue to launch new camping products. We have hammocks right now. I'm gonna let a little secret out of the bag here, okay? So don't tell me. Hope nobody's watching, right? Okay.
Well, you've got at least one person that's been firing up your website ordering stuff already. So
okay. So as an outdoor guy, we all use paracord a lot, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's just one of those things. If you go camping, hiking, hunting, whatever, you're carrying paracord to either set up a tent or strap something to a backpack or a motorcycle, whatever. You're going to have paracord, right?
Right.
Well, the problem with paracord is if you buy it in 200-foot lengths and you tie a knot onto something, and then you stretch it and tie another knot, and you have to cut it, or you're wasting it, right?
Right.
So this is a brand new item. It is patented, so I'm not going to worry too much, but this is a brand new item that we'll be launching here very, very shortly. This is from Extremis.
Oh my.
And this is a paracord tightening tool. It does a lot more than that too. It's got a saw blade right there. It's got hex wrenches, 5 different sizes. It's got can opener. It's got all kinds of different stuff in it. So it's a multi-tool. Uh-huh. But here's the cool thing. So let's say I take this and I attach that to whatever, a tree or something. Now I take my paracord, make sure I can see this in here, and I run it through that little slot right there, and I can cinch down to whatever I'm tightening it to and make one pull down there in the teeth, and it locks.
Hey.
So I never have to cut my paracord again. I can simply clip this onto one side of whatever I'm tightening it to, pull the paracord through that slot as tight as I want to get it,
right?
That fast, lock it into the jaws, and now it's there for good until I take it out. And I can retighten it, make it looser, whatever, very, very quickly. And it's got like a carabiner clip, so it's easy on and off. So that's one of the innovative new products that will also be coming from Extremis very, very soon, but not available yet. So don't tell anybody, okay?
That looks like it weighs nothing and would be perfect in any backpacker's kit. I mean, that's something they just need to have.
It weighs nothing. It is stainless steel, and that little unit right there will actually support over 300 pounds.
Nice.
So it's really, really strong because it is stainless steel. It's not aluminum, okay? But it weighs nothing.
That's a neat take on a multi-tool of sorts, because when I think of multi-tool, Leatherman.
Yep. And there is that happens to be a Phillips head right there and a slotted screwdriver head right there. Like I said, can opener, hex wrench, more hex wrenches here, saw blade. Anyway.
Well, that's pretty handy. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Al, is there anything else you'd like to say before we hang it up for tonight?
I've probably taken more of your time, and I really appreciate you helping us with our exposure and getting the word out about KastKing and Extremis. We're just a group of outdoor guys that work really hard at solving problems for the consumer, and so far that people tell us we're doing pretty good.
Well, from what I've seen, it's pretty impressive. Oh, one more question.
Yeah.
I had, let's see, my co-host again. He's wanting to upgrade some of his rods. He was asking about the replacement rod for the Mela 2.
Yeah, the Mela was a great reel, but everything has its life, and we think that we have better reels now. So there's, in the price range of the Mela, we probably have 3 or 4 other reels that are even better than that reel was. And have him give me a call, and I'll walk him through it.
I'll give him your number.
Okay.
Al, I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. You have a great night, Zach.
Yeah, you too.